Imagine stepping into this really tranquil ancient churchyard. The air feels thick with history, maybe a unique scent of damp earth and old stone all around you. You're deep in Pembrokeshire, Wales, right? A place where time often feels, well, less like a clock and more like something present. And there, surrounded by these majestic, really old yew trees, there's one that doesn't just catch your eye, kind of pulls you in. Because this isn't just any tree, this yew, well, it seems to be weeping. But the liquid running down its bark, it's not water. It's this constant flow of deep, blood-red sap trickling down its, gnarled ancient trunk. It's, well, it's profound and unsettling all at once. And this isn't just some trick of the light or a temporary thing. It's a centuries-old mystery. They call it the Bleeding Yew of Nevern, a living legend etched right into the landscape. So today on The Deep Dive, that's our mission, to journey into this enigma.
We're going to try and unpack both the observable facts, what scientists have suggested, and importantly, what's still unexplained, but also dive into the really rich tapestry of haunting legends and local stories that have grown up around this incredible tree. We want to explore why this tree seems to, well, remember so much, blurring the lines between nature, history, and belief.
And that sense of wonder you mentioned, it's completely justified. This tree, standing there in St. Brenneth's churchyard, it isn't just some botanical oddity. It's a really resonant touchstone woven into the history and culture of this ancient part of Wales. The layers of, well, human experience, belief, tragedy, you name it, embedded in that ground are as old and complex as the tree itself. It really is more than just a tree. It's like a living monument to memory.
Okay, let's unpack this for you, really set the scene. Our deep dive takes us to St. Bernard's Church in Nevern, right there in Pembrokeshire, Wales. Picture this quiet, timeless churchyard. You feel the centuries there, but not like a burden, more like a whisper on the wind, Thinking of everyone who's walked there before.
And what's immediately fascinating is the churchyard itself. It's way more than just a burial ground. There's evidence suggesting it's been a center of Christian worship since, at least the 6th century. But if you look closely, it's almost perfectly circular. That tells an even older story. This layout, they call it a balun in Welsh, it strongly hints at pre-Christian Celtic sacred enclosures. These were often spiritual places, maybe aligned with stars or hills, suggesting reverence going back millennia before Christianity. That deep ancient context is just vital for understanding everything else. It shapes the very ground the tree stands on.
Right. And as you walk into this sort of hallowed space, you see this majestic ring of centuries-old yew trees. They circle the whole area like these silent guardians. Their dark leaves, creating this natural, quiet enclosure. But out of all these ancient trees, one really commands your attention, the Bleeding Yew. It's right there, beside the path to the church door. You can't miss it. And the mystery is right there, visible. As you get closer, you see it clearly. This reddish resin, dark and thick, actually trailing down the bark. It looks like slow-moving trickles of blood, not just drips, but consistent streams coming from the gnarled trunk. It's an unforgettable image, almost like the tree is crying. It makes you immediately question, what's natural and what are the stories we tell?
It's a very powerful image, absolutely. And while, yes, botanists have offered natural explanations for sap coming out of yew trees, the sheer consistency, the volume, and just the look of it at Nevern makes it highly unusual. It's not just occasional weeping, it's constant. And that uniqueness is exactly why people have looked beyond just biology, which leads us naturally to the more, well, captivating stories and legends trying to explain it.
Yeah, and this is where the local stories, the really human narratives, start to wrap around this tree. Because while a scientist might look for botanical reasons, the people in Pembrokeshire, for centuries, they've told these more haunting tales. These aren't just, old wives' tales. They're living folklore, passed down carefully, shaping the memory of the whole Gwan Valley.
Mm-hmm. One of the most enduring legends, it's really deep in the local consciousness, is about a monk, a beloved monk from the Nevern church community. Apparently, he was deeply cherished, known for his kindness. But tragically, he was falsely accused by a jealous rival. Some versions say it was another clergyman wanting power. Others hint at, church politics back then. Anyway, he was sentenced to death without a fair hearing, a real injustice, and, the story goes, executed near where the tree stands now. The specifics, like how he died, sometimes vary: hanging, beheading, but the tragic end is the same. An innocent life taken unjustly.
And the legend says that from that exact day, the yew started to bleed. The belief isn't that it was physically harmed, but that it bleeds from sorrow, like this silent, endless weep for an injustice that was never put right. And the folklore holds that it keeps bleeding, even now, like a perpetual mourner, waiting until the truth about the monk comes out and his name is finally cleared.
What's really fascinating, though, is how that single story kind of echoes and broadens out into wider regional narratives. Other versions connect the bleeding not just to one man's suffering, but to the collective pain of the whole region. You could see it as a symbol for, say, the persecution of early Christians, or the violence during the Norman conquest, or even the suffering during centuries of religious and political turmoil. In those tellings, the tree bleeds not just for one monk, but for a whole land that remembers too much pain, too many injustices. It becomes this living archive of historical trauma.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful, this idea of a tree holding collective memory. But there's another story too, right? One told more quietly, passed down, connecting the yew to maybe a curse or a prophecy, gives it a different kind of mystical weight.
Indeed. This other version tells of a bishop, or maybe an abbot of Nevern, who was wrongly denied his position by rivals within the church. The injustice was so deep that, forced into exile, he apparently turned back one last time, right at the edge of the village. He looked towards the churchyard, towards the silent yews, and declared something like, "I won't return until the yew trees at Nevern bleed." A really dramatic final vow.
Well, they did. Just like that. Whether you see it as a curse, some divine sign, or just a bizarre fulfillment of his words, the result is the same. For reasons science can't pin down, the bleeding yew seems to obey this sacred contract, still flowing with that red sap. It's like the tree itself is bound by his words, just waiting.
And that lingering belief among locals is that the bishop's spirit is still there, still waiting, watching through the branches, until the day he can finally come back and claim his rightful place. It adds this layer of, eternal vigilance to the tree's presence. Like, it's not just remembering the past, but actively part of an ongoing, unresolved story.
These stories are just captivating. But our deep dive wouldn't be complete without looking at the scientific angle, too. For anyone skeptical or just scientifically curious, there are botanical facts to consider when you see a tree that looks like it's bleeding. So let's shift to the facts side here.
Correct. Yew trees, their scientific name is Taxus baccata. They are actually capable of secreting a red, sticky resin. This process, sometimes called gummosis or resinosis, usually happens when the tree is under significant stress. That could be physical injury, maybe lightning, deep frost cracks, even damage from people. Or it could be a reaction to certain fungal infections like canker or bacterial diseases affecting the bark. What happens is when this sap oozes out and hits the open air, it oxidizes. Chemical reactions cause it to turn that dark red color, which looks a lot like dried blood against the bark. This is a known thing in many trees, including yews.
And this feels like the crucial point for our deep dive. The Nevern yew is different. You hear about other yews leaking sap sometimes, but the consistency and the nature of this particular tree's bleeding, that's what sets it apart, right?
Right.
It seems to defy those standard explanations. What makes it such an anomaly?
Exactly. Unlike other cases where sap is usually a clear response to something obvious, its bleeding is incredibly consistent. Year-round, season after season, decade after decade, and crucially, it does this without any visible signs of the usual causes. Botanists have looked closely, they've taken samples, they consistently find the tree seems robust, healthy, thriving. It doesn't seem affected by age or any obvious disease or physical damage or environmental stress that would typically cause such heavy, persistent leaking. No obvious cankers, no insect damage, no major wounds. It's a puzzle. Theories have circulated, of course, among botanists and tree experts, but honestly, no definitive, agreed-upon explanation has ever been reached. It just keeps bleeding, healthy, and strong. A real botanical mystery in a world that usually likes neat answers.
And that's what makes it so deeply fascinating, isn't it? This blend of observable fact and just unexplained behavior. It exists in that amazing sort of liminal space between science and story, body and spirit, bark and blood. It almost feels like the tree itself is a doorway to something else.
And to really grasp the yew's power and the depth of meaning around it, we have to see it not just on its own, but within the larger sacred landscape that holds it. This tree isn't just a curiosity, it's a focal point in this ancient, spiritually charged environment.
So what does that mean when we connect it to the bigger picture? How does the wider landscape add to the tree's significance?
Well, nearby, there's a hill called Carn Ingley. That translates quite beautifully as Mountain of Angels. This mountain is closely linked to St. Brynach himself, the saint who founded the church. Local tradition says the saint used to climb that hill to fast and pray. And it was up there in deep contemplation that he received visions, angelic visits. It's said these divine encounters led him directly to choose Nevern as the spot for his church, sort of infusing the whole area with this sense of divine purpose.
And apparently even today, people who go up Carningly talk about a strange stillness, a deep peace, sometimes vivid dreams, or just this feeling of stepping outside the everyday. It clearly sounds like a place where nature, spirit, and time kind of fold into each other. Suggests a powerful energy in the earth itself.
Precisely. And adding to that, we absolutely have to remember how important the yew tree itself was to Celtic peoples long before Christianity arrived in Wales. The yew wasn't just a tree, it was deeply revered. It symbolized huge concepts: death and rebirth, eternity, the passage between this world and the next. Its incredible lifespan, how it stays green all winter, its frequent association with ancient burial sites, all made it a powerful symbol of enduring life, renewal, and maybe access to the spirit world. In fact, it's very likely that this specific ancient yew tree is older than the Christian church standing beside it. That makes it not just a Christian relic, but a living survivor of much older beliefs and sacred practices, a living bridge to a truly ancient past.
And today, you can still walk that ancient, worn path into St. Bernac's churchyard. A path walked by pilgrims seeking comfort, mourners grieving, monks praying, seekers looking for wisdom for, well, over 1,000 years. It's a really tangible, powerful connection to our shared human past, a place where history isn't just written down, it's felt.
And right in the middle of all that history, the bleeding yew remains this central, powerful presence. It stands there, silent but obviously alive. Unsettling in its mystery, but undeniably beautiful in how it just endures. You could argue it bleeds not just for the dead whose stories might hold, or for the injustice it represents, but maybe for the deep questions we, the living, still carry. Questions about meaning, memory, and the unseen forces that shape our lives.
In a world that often wants neat, tidy answers for everything, where every mystery needs solving, this tree offers something richer, more enduring. It's a riddle with no easy solution, a story written in sap and silence. It's a powerful reminder that maybe some truths are better felt and pondered and experienced, rather than just explained away and filed neatly. That what the bleeding yew really shows us isn't just a botanical quirk, but maybe our tremulous human need to find meaning in the inexplicable, turning strange phenomena into powerful stories that reflect our deepest fears, hopes, and our collective memory of things like injustice. So if you ever find yourself walking that ancient path, maybe looking for a connection to something deeper, take some time, linger under its branches, look at the old carvings on the gravestones, the majestic Celtic cross nearby, breathe in that heavy, almost holy air. And when you leave, don't be surprised if you're still wondering, why does the yew bleed? And what ancient truth does remember that we, maybe in our rush for answers, have forgotten? It really makes you wonder what other stories the silent guardians of our world might be holding, just waiting for us to listen.